You don't need talent to dink better. I want to say that clearly at the start because most players who struggle with the dink assume it's a feel thing, something that certain players are born with and others aren't. The soft hands, the touch, the ability to keep the ball low over and over without it creeping up and getting crushed. And because they believe it's feel, they believe it's fixed. You either have it or you don't. That belief is wrong. And this video is going to prove it. Because the dink problems that cost most recreational players the most points have nothing to do with feel or talent or years of experience. They come from 5 specific fixable things that almost nobody addresses directly. Fix these 5 things and your dink gets better. Not eventually, almost immediately. You don't need a gift. You need the right information. Let's go. 1. The dink is not a soft shot. It's a strategic one. Here's what most beginners believe the dink is for. You can't volley from inside the kitchen. That's the rule. So when you're at the net and the ball is low, you dink it because you have no other option. It's defensive. It's what you do when you can't do anything better. That's the mindset, and it completely misses the point. The dink isn't a soft shot you hit because the rules force you to. It's a weapon you use because of what it forces your opponent to do. Here's the rule that explains everything. A ball that crosses the net below net height forces the receiving player to contact it from below the level of the net and hit it upward to get it back over. And a ball hit upward, a ball where the contact point is below net level, cannot be attacked. You physically cannot drive a ball downward with pace when you're making contact below the net. The geometry doesn't allow it. All you can do is lift it back softly and give your opponent another dink. That's what the dink is engineering, not survival, denial. Every well-placed dink that lands low in the kitchen and forces your opponent to reach down and hit up is a ball they cannot attack, a point where they have no weapons. You've taken their options away with one controlled, purposeful shot. Once you see the dink as a weapon that creates situations rather than a filler shot you hit while waiting for something better, the entire way you use it changes. You stop being passive, you start being deliberate. You're not just keeping the ball in play. You're building a position from which the point will eventually break open exactly the way you want. 2. You're standing up when you should be getting down. This is the fix that changes more dinks immediately than anything else in this video. Not a grip adjustment, not a swing thought. Just where you put your body before the ball arrives. Watch a player with a weak dink during a kitchen rally. 9 times out of 10, they're standing relatively upright, back mostly straight, knees maybe slightly bent, and when the ball comes at them low, which it should be because the opponent is dinking correctly, they reach down for it at the last second. The arm drops, the paddle face opens upward, and the ball goes up into an attackable position every time. The problem isn't the arm movement, it's that the arm had to do the reaching at all. If the body had already gotten low before the ball arrived, knees bent, hips dropped, body at a level where a ball landing at kitchen height arrives at roughly mid-chest, then the arm doesn't have to reach anywhere. The paddle meets the ball in front of the body at a comfortable height with a flat or slightly closed face, and the ball stays low because the geometry of the contact is correct from the start. Getting low has to happen before the ball gets to you. Not as a reaction to where it lands, as a preparation for where it's going to land. Bend your knees before you need to. Drop your center of gravity while the ball is still on your opponent's paddle. Stay there through the whole exchange. If this feels uncomfortable or tiring, that's just your body adjusting to a position it hasn't trained in enough. It gets easier. And everything that comes off the paddle when you're actually low, the consistency, the control, the ability to keep the ball low is dramatically better than anything you'll produce reaching from a standing position. Get down early, stay down. The dink improves before you change anything else. And if you want to take your pickleball to the next level, check out the Pickleball Master Pack, a pack that includes the Elite Player Guide, a guide with technical and tactical tips, exclusive routines, and much more. The Become a PPA Tour Player Guide, where you'll learn how to become a pro pickleball player, a full 7 days fitness routine to take your fitness to the next level, and a prevention routine to prevent injuries and enhance recovery. This pack already helped hundreds of pickleball players. Get yours clicking the link in the description. Let's continue with the video. 3. You're hitting the dink with your arm. Here's a quick experiment. Hold your paddle out and flick your wrist. Feel that? Fast, snappy, hard to repeat exactly the same way twice. Now lock your wrist completely, lock your elbow, and push forward from the shoulder only horquiche. The whole arm moving as one unit like a pendulum. Feel the difference? Slower, more controlled, completely repeatable. That second movement is the dink. The dink is not a flick, it's not a push from the elbow. It's a forward motion driven by the shoulder with the wrist and elbow stable and along for the ride. And the reason this matters isn't feel, it's consistency. The wrist is the smallest, most mobile joint involved in the stroke. Small joints create large variations. A tiny change in wrist angle at contact produces a completely different ball flight. Do that across 50 dinks in a rally, and you're producing 50 slightly different balls, some of which will inevitably be too high, too short, too wide. The shoulder has none of that problem. It's a large, stable joint. It moves in a predictable arc. It produces the same motion when you repeat it because there's less room for small errors to compound. When the shoulder drives the dink, the stroke becomes genuinely repeatable. Not occasionally repeatable when you're feeling it, but reliably repeatable because the mechanics are sound. Feel is nice. Consistency is better. And consistency comes from using the right part of your body to produce the stroke. Practice the pendulum. Shoulder forward, wrist locked, paddle face stable. Hit 50 dinks that way. Feel how many of them land where you aimed. Then tell me it isn't simpler. 4. You're dinking to their forehand. Most recreational players dink to wherever is convenient, wherever the ball came from, roughly, wherever the safest landing zone feels in the moment. And that habit over a full kitchen rally amounts to handing your opponent a steady stream of comfortable balls to their dominant side. You're making it easy for them. There's a specific dink that makes it hard. The cross-court dink to the backhand. And it works for 3 separate reasons that stack on top of each other. First, the geometry. The net is lower in the middle, at the center strap, than it is at the sidelines. Hitting cross-court means hitting over the lowest part of the net, which gives you more clearance for the same shot and more margin for error on the trajectory. You can afford to keep it lower because you have more net to work with. Second, the distance. The cross-court diagonal is the longest path from one side of the kitchen to the other. A longer path means more time for the ball to drop, which means it arrives lower on your opponent's side, harder to attack, more difficult to handle cleanly. Third, the target. The backhand, for most recreational players, is the less reliable side. Less power, less confidence, less range of response. Hitting there consistently doesn't just make the shot harder, it makes every shot after it harder, because a player hitting off their backhand under pressure has fewer options than a player hitting off their forehand. Cross-court to the backhand is not a clever trick. It's the highest percentage dink in the game, and once you make it your default, the dink rally starts to feel like something you're running rather than something that's happening to you. In this video, I show you how to fix your dink step by step. I recommend you watch after this one. 5. You're speeding up too early. This is the one that undoes everything else. You've gotten low, you've used your shoulder, you've been dinking cross-court to the backhand. The rally has gone 7, 8, 9 balls. And something in your brain says, enough, time to do something. And you speed up a ball that hasn't earned it. A ball that's still low, still awkward to attack, still a dink ball. And it pops up, or goes wide, and the rally is over, the point is lost, and the dink that was working perfectly gets blamed for the error it didn't cause. The dink rally isn't passive. That's the misunderstanding. It feels passive because you're not hitting hard. But every ball you put back, low, cross-court, to the backhand, is applying pressure. Not visible, dramatic pressure. Quiet, accumulating pressure. The kind that makes your opponent reach a little further, bend a little lower, handle one more ball from a slightly worse position. By ball 8 or 9 or 10, something starts to give. The ball sits up a little. The contact is a little rushed, the return is a little high, and now, there's a ball worth attacking. Not before. The players who win dink battles consistently are not the ones with the best speed up. They're the ones who waited long enough for the right ball to appear. That patience is not comfortable. Your brain will tell you the rally has gone on long enough. It hasn't. The rally has gone on long enough when your opponent gives you something you can actually use, not before. Stay in it, keep dinking, let the pressure do the work, then go. So there it is. Understand the dink as a weapon that denies attack rather than a defensive filler shot. Get your body low before the ball arrives so the arm never has to reach. Drive the stroke from the shoulder so the motion is the same every single time. Dink cross court to the backhand, over the lowest part of the net, along the longest diagonal, to the weaker side, and stay in the rally longer than feels comfortable because the dink is always building pressure even when it doesn't feel like it. None of this is talent. All of it is information applied consistently. Your dink can be better by the end of your next session if you take these 5 things onto the court with you. If one of these changed how you think about the shot, drop it in the comments. I want to know which one. And if you want to keep seeing pickleball broken down the way it actually works, subscribe to the Pickleball Dude. See you in the next one.